Ladies and gentlemen,
wrestling has more than one royal family.
I am my kingdom! I am my kingdom!
So I was watching the latest episode of Major League Wrestling last night, and as it so often does when you watch something on YouTube, I got recommended to me other wrestling things to watch. And I noticed there is some reality of wrestling shows on there. There's some Impact shows on there. There is some women's wrestling shows on there. There's even Defiant pay-per-views on there. And even it was What Culture Pro Wrestling, there's some other. So some fun wrestling shows that we could watch at some point. But we've got a full slate coming up. I know from tonight we have the debut of AEW AEW Dynamite on TNT, and then Jeff and I will be going live right afterwards with our brand new show, Dynamite After Dark, #Dad. And then after that, we've got on October 20th, we have Bound for Glory, Impact's biggest show of the year. On November 2nd, there is the first ever MLW pay-per-view, Saturday Night Super Fight. Exactly a week after that, there is the next AEW pay-per-view, known as Full Gear. And I'm sure somewhere in that mix is going to be Power Struggle for New Japan Pro Wrestling. But then just a few weeks down the line, we have everybody's favorite holiday. We have Thanksgiving, and it used to be that the Thanksgiving night tradition was Survivor Series, and before that it was Starrcade. And now WWE is still running a Starrcade in the North Carolina area. But Jeff, do you know what else runs in the North Carolina area Thanksgiving weekend?
What's that?
That show that we both loved last year when we watched it, WrestleCade. And you and I have talked. We've kind of made it a running gag on this show that had the worst. Not that it had the worst match of all time, because that's not a gag. But
No. It did have the worst match of all time.
But that we're going to cover the sequel to it in the Steel Cage this coming year, and you've been pretty resistant to that notion.
Yeah, it's not happening.
So I'm going to give you a choice, because I don't think there's going to be any other major wrestling stuff going on around that time. So I'm going to give you a choice. So we can either cover that show, or one of the shows that I saw on YouTube last night is considered the worst wrestling pay-per-view of all time. And it's available for us to watch it for free. It's from 1999. It's called Heroes of Wrestling. Would you like me to run down this card for you?
No, can I just jam a spoon in my eye and dig out both of them? I don't even want to hear about it.
Well, it's got some big names on it, but you have to remember, this is at least 5 years after any of them were relevant. So here's the card. Match number 1. A team I'm going to call the Rocktastics taking on the Samoan SWAT team. The Rocktastics are, of course, the very famous team of Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers. Match number 2. George the Animal Steel with Sensuous Sherry versus Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Did you say 5 years after they were relevant, or 25?
I said at least 5.
We're going back like 15.
I know, but
most of these guys.
Right, but there's a couple of them that were relevant within the last few years.
Oh, all right.
Case in point, match number 3, Too Cold Scorpio versus somebody called Julio Fantastico. Are you drooling over watching this show yet?
Can't you hear my excitement?
Match number 4. Luke and Butch, the former Bushwhackers.
No. We refuse to refer to them as the Bushwhackers. They are the sheep herders.
Versus Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
Oh,
Who
good
lost
God.
in, 60 seconds to the Hart Foundation at WrestleMania 6?
Ugh.
You remember that match?
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite spots ever because I'm such a big Brett fan, you know. So, match number 5. Tully Blanchard versus Sweet Stan Lane. So half of the Blanchard and Anderson, or the Brainbusters, as they were called in WWE, versus half of the second Midnight Express. Match number 6. The One-Man Gang versus Abdullah the Butcher. And that's apparently the match that convinced the booker of this show that he wanted no part in wrestling, because he didn't realize that Abdullah the Butcher was going to bleed all over the ring on a pay-per-view. Which
Really?
makes you wonder if he knows what a butcher is, and if he'd ever seen an Abdullah the Butcher match in his entire life.
Clearly not.
Match number 7 is a match that I think, we almost got at the original WrestleMania, except for Jimmy Snuka proved to be unreliable. Jimmy Snuka taking on Cowboy Bob Orton.
All right, you know what? Even in 99, I wouldn't mind seeing that one.
Match number 8. Jake the Snake Roberts versus Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Wait, is it Sober Jake or is it not Sober Jake?
I'm assuming not Sober Jake.
That might be entertaining then.
And your main event, King Kong Bundy versus the former Yokozuna.
I thought Yoko died before that. I thought he died in like 98.
Well, maybe it was the ghost of the former Yokozuna then.
I don't know. Now I'm curious.
Yeah. So that is considered that's considered many to be the worst wrestling pay-per-view of all time. And you can watch it for free on the old YouTube there. It's called Heroes of Wrestling.
Okay, so that one happened, what, Thanksgiving of 99?
I'm not sure if it was Thanksgiving of 99, but it happened in 1999.
Well, because Yoko died in October of 2000, so...
Okay.
So that could have been his last match.
Could have been, yeah. Probably less than a year.
Last televised match, at least.
Yeah. So let me look up the date. I don't think I looked up the date earlier when I was looking up the card. This was also a show that was supposed to be called by Gordon Soley, but he bailed out of it at the last minute.
Do you blame him?
No. What was the date that Yoko died?
October 23rd.
Okay, so it was just 2 weeks shy of a year from this show. So Heroes of Wrestling was October 10th, 1999.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that was probably his last match. His last televised one, anyway.
Yeah.
Huh.
See, I told you the opening of the show was going to be fun.
Yeah, you lied.
Just like I lied when I told you the description of last year's WrestleCade. So.
Yeah, you asshole. What's going to be on this year's WrestleCade, anyway?
I don't think there's been anything announced yet, actually.
Holy crap, when he was that Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view you talked about,
Yeah.
he weighed 760 pounds in that pay-per-view.
Jesus.
His goal was to get up to 850 to 900, somewhere in there, because he wanted to set a new record for the heaviest pro wrestler ever.
Well, so I guess you could say that he ate himself to death then.
Okay, we need to watch this. No, he had what do you have? A pulmonary edema. But okay,
Yeah,
here's what
I'm
happened.
sure that had nothing to do with his weight whatsoever.
Here's what happened, and I think we need to watch this one now because at least even if we decide we're going to do WrestleCade again, I can I don't know. I can take some kind of knockout drug for that Vampiro match, but in this one here, there were two main events. There was Bundy against Yoko, and there was Jake against Neidhart. And Jake came to his match so intoxicated that he couldn't wrestle. So the promoters made a last-minute change and ordered Yoko to team with Roberts against Bundy and Neidhart.
Okay.
So that might actually not be a bad one to watch, just for the historical things. I mean, it's one of Yoko's last matches. Just the fact that he was 760 pounds, and then the whole Jake Roberts messed up thing that had to change the whole card. I might be all in on that, at least to watch it at some point.
Okay.
Just to watch it at some point. We may not need to do it then, but at least at some point.
So I just tried looking up what the card is for WrestleCade 2019, and it's exactly the same card as WrestleMania 2018, so I'm thinking they just haven't fixed the card yet.
Or does it just say don't even bother?
No, it does not say that.
Well, that would have made more sense. We could probably do this because the only match that went longer than 10 minutes was the main event, the Yoko and Roberts against Bundy and Neidhart. Yeah, oh, no, Snuka and Orton went 11 minutes, so we could probably watch this.
It's probably about a 3-hour show. It's not any worse than any other.
3 hours? There's not even a whole 45 minutes worth of wrestling on it.
I'm pretty sure when I looked at it on YouTube last night, it was like 3 hours and 4 minutes or something.
All right, here's the match times. We've got 8 matches. We got 10, 6, 6.5, 9.5, almost 9, 7, 7, 12, and 16.5. That's not even. Is that even 45 minutes?
No, but what do you see in pay-per-views for other organizations too? I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if they were doing promos or what they were doing.
This one might actually be worth it to watch. Just for historical reasons.
Maybe hysterical as well.
And definitely hysterical. All right, you might have me in on this one.
Yeah, I mean it might be wrestle crap, but it might be wrestle crap that's worth devoting some time to watching. I'm looking up the show on pay-per-view now, or I mean not on pay-per-view. I'm not gonna pay for this, but I'm looking it up on YouTube to see what the match. I'm pretty sure it was like 3 hours and 4 minutes when I looked at it last night, but we'll see if I'm correct or not. Heroes of the Storm. No, that's not it.
Well, I found it already, so it's 2 hours and 33 minutes.
Okay.
Oh my God. Jake looks so messed up. Holy shit. Well, 2.5 hours, that's not bad. We could watch that.
Yeah, maybe at some point. So yeah, maybe around that Starcade, or maybe around that WrestleCade time, we could watch that. Yeah, 2:33:56. That's right. So.
Here's the.
And like the first, I think the first 5 minutes of that is basically running down what the card is. Yeah, the first 5 minutes is basically them running down the card, and you have Dutch Mantel as the color commentator on this thing too.
Yeah, I see that. Here's the description. It's the infamously horrible Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view featuring washed up and out-of-shape legends of the wrestling business. From Randy Rosenblum's misidentification of moves, the horrible Bushwhackers tag match, and the notorious Jake Roberts incident, this is widely regarded as the worst pay-per-view of all time.
Okay. You cannot... How do you say horrible Bushwhackers tag match? When did you ever expect the Bushwhackers to have a good tag match?
When they were the sheep herders?
Yeah, but that's why I specifically said Bushwhackers.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that is definitely fair.
There also are like all of the previous WrestleCades available in the Impact Plus app that we can go back and watch as well.
I wouldn't mind watching some of those earlier. Well, geez, when are we gonna have time to go back? But some of the earlier What Culture pay-per-views, like when Marty was champ and when Drew, not Galloway, but what's his real name?
No, it is Drew Galloway. He's
Is it?
McIntyre now in WWE. He was
Oh
Galloway.
yeah, okay, yeah. So when Drew Galloway was champ and things like that.
Right. So, yeah. So I mean, that's. I thought it'd be kind of a fun little. I was basically giving you a choice between WrestleCade and this, and it sounds like you've chosen this. Yeah, there is no card for WrestleCade yet. I mean, they come up with something amazing on there. I mean, there was some matches on WrestleCade we did like. There was the
Yeah, there were a
Spider
few.
versus Aldis match. There was the Valkyrie versus Penelope Ford match that we both loved. There was that six-way ladder match. There was that one tag match that was pretty decent.
It was actually some good on there. It was just that one, well, the worst match of all time that really ruined it.
Yeah, and the ECW match wasn't good, and then the the Sandman thing in the Battle Royal was just terrible.
The Battle Royal was brutal. the fact that Falaba just cleared it by farting was rough.
Yeah. Fun, but rough.
They're advertising Kane to be on this one.
Kane?
Yeah, and Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah, Dustin, I know, is doing some kind of a sit-down thing like he did at Starcast. But I'm not sure if he's going to be wrestling on the show or not.
All right, and then they've got Breakfast with Legends going to be a part of that.
Yeah, I think there's like a whole package you can buy, but I think last year we only got the Super Show.
And the Orange Show is going to be live there too.
Did you listen to the Orange Show?
No, I haven't heard it yet, but I know Ryan told us about it.
I listened to it last night. And, I thought, I don't know how entertaining Arn Anderson's going to be on a podcast, because he was one of the great mic men of all time, but I didn't know how much entertaining he'd be on a podcast, and I thought the show was pretty good. So I'll definitely tune in next week and listen to it.
The reason why he was so good on the mic was because he was real on the mic.
Because what?
Because he was so real. He didn't shout. He didn't scream. It's the same reason why Jake Roberts was so good on the mic too. Is he never blew up and just got out of control. He just sat there and spoke, and people listened.
Yeah, which is great in like a 3-minute promo, but I wasn't sure how I was going to translate into a podcast.
Right.
It may turn out that after a few weeks I'm just like, well, this is kind of dry and I don't want to listen to it anymore, or it may turn out to be something I listen to all the time. Time will tell.
Well, eventually they've got to. They're spending so much time on the WCW and WWE legends of the 90s and 80s that eventually these guys are going to run out of stories. How many times can we hear the same thing from a different point of view?
Yeah, I was kind of feeling that way listening to Shivani's podcast and also 83 Weeks, because somehow I got it synced up where even though they're like a year and a half apart from each other, or a year apart from each other or so, it was like I was listening to, like, I would listen to Spring Stampede 94 on one, and then the very next episode on the next one was against Spring Stampede 94. It was just insane.
Yeah, I think as much as I like Conrad Thompson, I think he needs to mix it up and bring different things to each of these guys. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't. Okay, you talk Spring Stampede with Bischoff, so how about with Shivani we talk about something else? Maybe the night after. The Nitro that was right after Spring Stampede. Actually, there wasn't a Nitro after that, but you know what I mean? Instead of doing the same topic.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Yeah, I think the thing might just be that we're listening to them at, because if you listen to Shivani from the beginning, then you're still have a year's distance between the two shows you're listening. If you're listening to them as they're actually airing. So
That's true. That does make sense, I guess.
And
But
then you have like Tony Schiavone. Like a lot of what he's doing is like calling, the on a lot of the recent shows, they're doing watch-alongs where he's basically calling it while they're watching it, and then making comments here and there when Conrad asks him a question about it. Whereas Bischoff, he's always talking about the business end of things.
yeah, that makes sense. So I mean,
for that reason, I like the Bischoff show better because I really, first of all, I've always been a Bischoff fan, but secondly, the business of the wrestling business always has interested me as well.
and
But
it's fun listening.
But I would definitely recommend listening to Tony Schiavone watching ECW's Barely Legal for the first time ever.
All right, that could be fun.
It was because he didn't know who half the wrestlers were, so Conrad was having him make up names. So
That's fantastic. Okay, I got to listen to that one.
Would you like to know what he ended up calling John Kronos?
Yes.
Daryl.
Really? Oh my god.
He started off by saying like Perry's had this cross-eyed motherfucker, and then like halfway through the match he started calling him Daryl.
Just cross-eyed motherfucker. That's hysterical.
Yeah.
That is hysterical.
Then he knew who the Dudley Boys were, but when Conrad asked him like if he could name them, he's like, I think it's Devin and Bully Ray or Bubby Ray or something. So they called him Bubby Ray the entire match.
Bubby Ray.
Yeah, Bubby Ray and Devin.
Well, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it.
Maybe I might have to watch that one then. That does sound interesting.
Yeah, and he freaked out when Van Dam did his chair thing. Like when Van
really?
Dam threw a chair in Sandstorm's face. He was like, "That's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I'm gonna hit you with a chair. No, I'm gonna throw it in your face."
Wow.
And it was great listening to it because I remember having the same reaction when I first saw Van Dam do that.
Yeah, that does make sense. And it's something that I can see where he's coming from with it, where that would be, just good to see. Yeah. Especially if you're seeing it for the first time. I mean, when I saw it for the first time was so long ago, I can't even remember how I reacted.
No, but you can remember how you reacted to that ECW show. When we first started covering him, that the night the line was crossed, and we both reacted to that.
Right, and that was such an amazing show.
Yeah, we both marked on that one.
It really sucks that it got so bad, that the last two have been so bad. Because that first one was just phenomenal.
But it's an evolution, we have to, you're going to have hits and you're going to have misses.
So, yeah, that's true.
Speaking of hits and misses, so what did you think of NXT's debut episode? Let's call it a relaunch, I suppose. Now it's on USA Network.
Well, okay. When we didn't have our show last week, I did a YouTube video, or on Monday I did a YouTube video, and I kind of touched on some of this stuff. I don't know that it's something I want to tune in for every week, and not because I don't mind not having superstars on every single match, but they got a lot of work to do to build up a lot of these people to keep anybody around to watch it. Because you can't throw out a couple of women that nobody's ever heard of and expect them to watch.
Did they do that?
And I think, oh yeah, I should bring up the card because there was that 4-way match that Candice LeRae won, which great. I'm glad they're finally giving Candice some shine.
Oh yeah, there was a second women's match too, wasn't there?
I can't remember if that was on.
Yeah, because there was that Chinese lady and somebody else. That's right.
I don't know. They're not. All right. Here's some debut episode. Let me see. All right, you had Candice LeRae winning against Leo Shirai, Mia Yim, and Bianca Belair, which was a great match. It just wasn't as good as I'd hoped it was going to be.
It's Io Shirai.
Io Shirai, yeah. And then the second match was okay. So that other women's match was on the network, but you still had Cameron Grimes beat Sean Maluda in like 10 seconds, which was great to see Trevor Lee out, but couldn't they have given him a little bit more than 10 seconds?
Well, I think that gives them an opportunity to see Cameron Grimes, see his character, see what he can do. And then if he goes over Maluda really quickly, it doesn't really mean much. I mean, it gets Grimes the win, it gets him the exposure. You see Maluda a little bit, but I don't think you're going to remember in a month that he lost in 10 seconds to Trevor Lee.
No, probably not. And then, of course, there was the what started to be a great match between Roderick Strong and Velveteen Dream. I felt like the ending kind of ruined it.
Too much interference?
Yeah, because it went... Had Roderick won with that first... and what does he call the move?
End of Heartache.
Return of the Heart Attack? End of Heartache. If he'd won with that first End of Heartache after Dream got distracted and was fighting his way out of it, I would have been okay with it at that point. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he kicked out and then had to get super kicked by Adam Cole and in order to finally lose it, that I think is where it went. It was a little too overbooked and what really drug it down. Because that did not make Roderick Strong look strong at all.
I agree. That's where I lost it. Well, I lost it with the first commercial break. How was the actual match without the commercials?
Not good, because you could tell where the commercials were, and there was like 3 of them during that match.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the problem is when they came back, because they were doing it live, they would literally, granted there weren't commercials, but you could definitely see the skip. And there was a major skip. Like they'd go to break with the 2 guys outside, and Roderick Strong, taking it to Dream, and then they come back and Dream's in control in the ring. It just took too much out of the match.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it was a good match, but I thought it could have been a great match without the commercials in it. And even with that ending, it still could have been a great match. It wouldn't have been an all-time great. It's an all-time great match.
No. I mean, it is what it was.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Dream goes hits a Dream Valley driver. Referee gets distracted. He gets distracted. End of Heartache pin, and then then I have no problem with the way the match ends. But when you have to have all 3 members get involved and the super kick by Cole, and then a second End of Heartache, then to me it was too much.
Right? Yeah. It became way too overbooked at that point, and it became It got to a point where it just wasn't believable anymore, and it did nothing to make Roderick Strong look like a good champion. Which is sad, because I think he is a guy that really deserves it. Deserves the spotlight and everything.
He does. And I wouldn't be surprised if have you seen the card for their show next week?
No, well, the show tonight?
No, next week.
No, I haven't.
Head to head against AEW's debut.
No, I haven't. What's that?
Okay, so there's a rematch for the tag titles, so it's Red Dragon taking on Street Profits.
Might not be a bad match.
The winner of tonight's Matt Riddle versus Killian Dane match is challenging Adam Cole for the for the NXT Championship. And then Candice LeRae is challenging Shayna Baszler for the Women's Championship. So they're really stacking that show.
Yeah, and they're doing a good job with it too, because that actually looks like a really good card. But
and I wouldn't be surprised if they had a title match for Roderick Strong on there too. I prefer that it's Pete Dunne instead of Truth. I'm not Truth, but Dream. But yeah, I think that if you add like Pete Dunne versus Roderick Strong on there, I think you got like an amazing show. It's almost like a takeover, just an hour and a half instead of 2.5 hours.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they didn't do enough to build any interest for me going forward.
Yeah, I saw people say that it was a home run, and I didn't get that at all. I thought it was
No,
a
I didn't
solid double.
either.
I thought it was a solid double, but I did not think it was a home run.
Well, like I said, they put a lot into that very first. Well, and then fucking Triple H being there for 10 minutes talking really didn't help much either.
10 minutes.
I don't know. He seemed like he was on screen forever, talking to start the show.
I honestly think it was like 20 seconds.
No, it seemed like it was like an hour. I mean, he just maybe it's just because I'm used to droning Triple H interviews, but
yeah, no, I don't think it was that long at all. One thing that really stood out for me in that first match, though, is I've never really been big on Io Shirai. I think I've never disliked her, but I've never really liked her either. And now I want to go back and rewatch her matches against Shayna Baszler, because you know who I saw in that match when she was in there doing all her crazy stuff?
who?
I saw a female AJ Styles,
Really?
and I'm like, oh my god! I just was amazed by everything she was doing. I could finally see why they call her the genius of the sky.
Yeah, I mean, she's good. She's much better as a heel. I think she has a lot more character now as a heel.
I'm just
And
talking
she
about
is very
purely- I'm
talented.
just talking about purely the in-ring stuff, though.
She's very talented. I don't know if I guess maybe I didn't pay that close of attention. I was more focused on Candice LeRae and the fact that it seems like she's finally getting a push. But I guess we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, I mean, LeRae, finally being the one to beat Shayna Baszler, would. I don't know. Do you think it's a big enough show for Baszler to lose that championship she's now held for over a year?
Considering she's already lost it once, yeah.
Well, she's
If
lost
she
it once,
had-
but it's been over a year since she won it the second time, is what I'm saying.
But if she hadn't lost it to, why can't I think of her name? The pirate.
Yeah, the Pirate Princess, Kairi Sane.
Yeah. If she hadn't lost it to Kairi Sane, then I'd say no. She can't lose it on a show like that, especially when you realize that on Friday, Brock's going to win the title, and there's going to be title changes on Friday too. And then of course we've got the whole draft going on. There's just too much stuff going on for a title change to happen of that significance. But because she lost to Kairi Sane, I don't see a problem with her losing this one.
You said a bunch of weird shit there that I don't even know if you're speaking English. You said something about a Brock and something about a draft. I have no idea what those things are. So.
I love your WWE denial.
So I thought that coming out of the way I felt about not Kairi Sane, you got me thinking that about Io Shirai. It might be fun to talk about the women the way we talked about the tag teams last week. So
Possibly, yeah.
So I'm just gonna list, not necessarily in order, but who I think my top 5 women's wrestlers on the planet are right now. And,
Okay.
And because I don't know what a Brock is and what a draft is, I also don't know what a Becky is, or a Charlotte is, or a Sasha.
Or a
is.
Sasha.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, I'm talking about women that do not wrestle in an evil piece of shit.
Please tell me you at least know who Mandy Rose is.
I've seen pictures. And those pictures may or may not be covered with puddles of things.
God, I love you.
All right, so
I did not see that coming.
so to speak.
Right. Wow. All right. Anyway, so go ahead.
If you saw that coming, I'm a little scared that I need to look in my house for hidden cameras.
You might want to cover your windows, dude.
Oh, I'm trying to. Oh, you mean with like curtains? Never mind.
Yes, with curtains. Jesus Christ.
All right, so my top women, of course, Shayna Baszler. She's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Try. Taya Valkyrie, Tessa Blanchard, and while I'd really like to put Kelly Klein in this spot, I'm going to go and I also have B Priestley really high. I think Rosemary is in my top 5 as well.
See, I would go obviously Shayna Baszler as well, and Tessa Blanchard. And Kelly Klein. Those would be my top 3.
Okay.
I really like that chick from AEW, and you caught me off guard, so I wasn't prepared. I can't remember her name, but the little Japanese girl.
Riho?
Yeah, Riho. I think is amazingly talented, and Rosemary with her whatever she's doing still kind of bugs me a little bit. But I think if I had to go with a 5th,
That's how a top 5 works. You have to have 5.
I really like that Lizzie Styles that was with Defiant.
I had no idea who that is, honestly.
Yeah, and you didn't watch it, but I really felt like every time I watched her, she was head and shoulders above most women on the planet, and somebody who can be a huge star. Another one that I really, really think is talented is that chick from Evolve.
Oh, yeah. Brandy Lauren.
Yeah, I think she's going to be a superstar someday too.
Yeah, she will be. I'm just not willing to put her in my top 5 right now.
No, but she's like an honorable mention. And when I'm looking at this, I'm also looking at I don't know that Riho has the body of work that like a Tessa Blanchard or even a Taya Valkyrie has.
Right.
But the potential I see with Riho, she definitely deserves my top 5.
Okay. That makes sense.
Same thing with Lizzie Styles. Like Taya, if you look at what Taya Valkyrie has done, nobody on the planet should ever keep her out of a top 5 list. But I also don't see much more out of Taya. I don't know what else she can do. Like we see Shayna Baszler and once she starts getting in there against people like the women that you don't watch, Sasha and Flair and Becky, we might see how she might be able to.
Wait. Did Flair have a sex change?
Yeah.
I remember that there's this guy named Ric Flair that wrestled for the NWA. Are you talking about he's a female now?
Yes, I am. Okay. But if you see her in against people of that stature, it might raise her. If she can step up, then she's on a whole new level. You can also see that with Tessa Blanchard now that she's mainly out of the women's division and fighting men all the time. You can see her stepping up to another level. The sky's the limit right now for Riho and Lizzie Styles. I think that they've got future written all over them, and I think Kelly Klein has not really had the competition that we like. So, I mean, they've all got places where they can step up. I think Taya, because of her Lucha Underground experience, because of the way she's just dominating Impact, I don't see Taya as stepping up to another level. And I love her. I think she's one of the best.
I think Taya is better just about every time I see her in some aspect.
She is getting better, but I can't see her bringing her game to another level where all the rest of them I can.
And honestly, I mean, nothing wrong with your picks, but I'm just surprised that, as much of a fan as I thought you were of Bea Priestley, that you have Lizzie, this Lizzie chick that was in Defiant ahead of her, and then you have Riho, who's in the same organization that Priestley's in now, ahead of her. Because if I had to pick one, because as much as I like Nia Rose, if I had to pick one person in AEW, I think my top woman in AEW right now is Bea Priestley.
I do like Bea, but I've also seen her in matches against people like Lizzie Styles and Riho, and I don't know. I just like those two better.
Okay, it's fair. I was just expressing my surprise at that.
No, I get it.
What else was I going to. Oh, and as far as Kelly Klein, yeah, I mean, I think you're right to me. I think a lot of it is that she just doesn't have the competition in there to really prove her worth, and also she's kind of been booked really weird to me in Ring of Honor too.
Yeah, and a lot of that's
a lot of stop start, a lot of are you a heel, are you a face, a lot of I don't know. I do think a lot of it though is there simply isn't anybody in Ring of Honor that's capable of competing with Kelly Klein at her level.
No, there isn't. Kelly Klein is above everybody on that roster, and that includes Angelina Love and Velvet Sky.
Right.
She is just so far head and shoulders above everybody else there that it's really hard to get a good judge of where she can be. Maybe if she went up to the next level, she would sputter and she wouldn't be in my top 5 anymore. It's hard to tell. But yeah, definitely. She right now is definitely somebody that I'd like to see her against better talent to see if she could actually hang with the better talent. And it's the same thing with Shayna Baszler.
I mean, she's so far above them that when we watched her lose the women's championship to that, I can't remember her name from Stardom. She does moonsaults, and you're like, those moonsaults are really supposed to hurt Kelly Klein? Seriously?
Right. Well, it's like Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler is head and shoulders above everybody else on that NXT roster. I really like Candice LeRae, but let's be honest, she has some seasoning to do. Io Shirai has, as a heel, I really like her, but again, she's another one that has some seasoning yet. There's really nobody else on that roster that is on the level that, and not only not on the level, but not even thinking of the level that Shayna Baszler's on. Shayna is everything they wanted Ronda Rousey to be. She is absolutely everything they wanted Ronda Rousey to be.
Except for probably the draw.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean Ronda had the name, and I think wasn't Shayna and the other 3 members of the Horsemen, didn't they fight for Bellator?
I honestly have no idea. I've never followed UFC. I've never followed mixed martial arts, I should say.
I'm pretty sure, and I'm too lazy right now, and if I'm wrong, somebody will let me know, but I could have swore they fought for Bellator and Ronda fought in the UFC. So I mean, she came with name value.
UFC. I just don't know, where Shayna Baszler fought. That's all.
She, so Ronda came with the name value, and I mean, Jesus, we talked about Ronda 2 years before she debuted in WWE. I remember one of our earliest podcasts was talking about her defeat and what we thought about it. And
yeah.
So I mean, she's had a name value forever, but at the same time, she's never really been able to transition that cage fighting badass into a great storytelling wrestler, where Shayna Baszler has done that to a T.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's just my take on it. I never bought into Ronda as a legitimate wrestler, where Shayna Baszler, I do. She's a great storyteller. She's able to mix in her MMA background and make it look believable. Where when you see Ronda put on, some of her moves, you can literally tell she is holding back, because if she legitimately put on that move, it would probably break someone's arm. If she put them on like she did in the UFC, it would probably break somebody's arm. Where the way Shayna does it, when Shayna puts on her mixed martial art moves, it looks like it hurts. It doesn't look like she's holding back at all.
No, I mean, and she's even had matches where she's popped her own shoulder back into place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rousey had 2 great WrestleMania matches. I don't think that can be argued. But
no, it can't be.
But yeah, I mean, as an overall character and as an overall ring presence, I don't think that she holds a candle to Shayna Baszler.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, if it wasn't for Tessa Blanchard, I would say Shayna Baszler was the best women's wrestler on the planet right now.
Well, not just Tessa. Yeah. I can't disagree with that, because I think, Tessa is on the level where I want Shayna to be at someday. I would love to see a match between those two.
Yeah, well, I don't think Baszler's ever going to get to the level, especially in that organization of where she's wrestling men.
No, no, and you know, and now that we're talking about it,
and honestly, I'm not even sure that Tessa should be at that level. And the reason I say that is simply because once you bring somebody up to that point, how do you then walk it back?
Well, exactly. She can't go back to the women's division now and defeat somebody like that's kind of like when Shawn Michaels or Triple H went back and was the IC title holder.
Or when AJ Styles won the NWA World Title, he would never win the X Division title again after that, right?
That's the way it should have been.
Exactly.
But you know, you got to hit that reset. But I'm just saying, could you imagine Hulk Hogan with the Intercontinental title? And
Absolutely not.
That's kind of the same thing with Tessa Blanchard now. You just cannot picture. And you know, we talked about this a while ago, and for some reason I thought of it yesterday, and it was out of the blue. I thought about it. I was driving into work, and I'm like, you know, we make a wrestling now and how they're fighting men and all that stuff. Remember China? Remember the Intercontinental title winner, China?
Oh,
remember the one that went in?
Oh, not the 3.2 billion people of China.
No. The one that won the Intercontinental title, the one that was fighting men 2 decades.
The one that had the good housekeeping match against Jeff Jarrett, where he could pay $100,000 for that one match because otherwise he wasn't going to wrestle, and because his contract has expired the night before SummerSlam. Because
Jim Ross dropped the ball. Hey, wait, no, we don't know about that organization. Remember? Saying.
I know about the WWF. I don't know about the WWE.
I mean, I said it a month and a half ago. It's time to get off the pushing women's wrestling.
What we were talking about earlier with me cleaning the windows. Of course, covering the windows. Of course, it's time to get off.
It's time for us to start to circumvent the women's wrestling movement and revolution and how it's becoming so great and all this shit. It's been great. We've seen those stars. We've seen those people. I mean, and all you have to do is look at China. China was Tessa Blanchard 20 years before Tessa Blanchard. Granted, Tessa's 175 times hotter, and I hope she doesn't end up in a porno with the Hulk, with, you know, the Incredible Hulk doing naughty things to her, like China did.
I did not know that happened. I mean, I knew that she and X-Pac had a sex tape. I did not know about the Incredible Hulk, though.
Oh, no, she went straight up porn. She was releasing many movies.
Didn't Shelly Martinez do that, too?
I don't think Shelly ever did, because I think Shelly was kind of like Rusev's wife, Lana, and I can't remember what her real name is, and like... maybe she did softcore stuff and not hardcore stuff. Maybe that's what No. And the other one, too. Oh, shit. She's in the WWE now. She's married to Nick Aldis. How's her name?
Mickie James.
She used to be yeah. You know, those three all did porn before they became wrestlers or while they were independent wrestlers. And I'm pretty sure that Shelly Martinez was in that same type of level where it was not so much soft porn, but it was a lot of pictures. It was, you know, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
But China was full blown, literally, making porno movies that were the triple X version.
Okay. And probably Kota had to remind me, realizing she was doing it for half the time.
More than likely, yeah. And it's bad. I mean,
let's not. I take that back. I don't want to speak ill of the dead. So.
Well, and it's not just that. We try to keep this show away from, you know, whatever has happened. And you can, you know, if you go to our Patreon and listen to our Chris Benoit episode, that's something that we really push, is we want to keep the real life out of the stories. out of the performer in the ring. And I mean, yeah, you have to bring up the fact that she did porn because, well, she did. But at the same time, you cannot take away that she was literally doing the things that these women are getting credit for now. And the same thing with Trish and Lita and Mickie James and, you know, so many others during that, 99 to 2002 era was, is they were doing everything that is now being pushed as this women's revolution. And we forget about it because there was also the cat taking her shirt off every other week. And Jackie, remember how great Jackie was in the ring?
You know, that's not why we forget about it, though, Jeff.
Why?
The reason that we forget about it is because it came and then it went.
Right.
WWE did not keep it around. WWE had won the Monday Night War by that point. They were basically the only game in town when it came to big time pro wrestling, and they let the the original women's revolution come and go. And now
they had such a great thing.
And now they're pushing it as if this was the only time it's ever happened. And and yes, for the first time ever, women are main eventing pay-per-views. For the first time ever, women are in a Hell in a Cell match. For the first time ever, women are having Iron Man matches. But that's not the key. The key is whether it keeps going. And I think now that we live in the Me Too era, I don't think that the public would ever let it go again like they did 15 years ago when Trish left, and that basically ended women's wrestling on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, and when you think about it,
TNA still always had the Knockout division. The Knockout division has always been awesome.
Well, Gail Kim, Mickie James, and
Awesome
as much Awesome Kong, that Gail Kim Awesome Kong rivalry.
And of course, the Beautiful People.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'll never hear me speak ill of the Beautiful People. Velvet. It's the only time in my life I'll ever
hear you say that.
It's the only time in my life I will ever be jealous of Bully Ray. Just saying. But they had at that time with Angelina Love and I remember Winter. She was. Do you remember the pirate?
Oh, Winter. She was. Yeah, she was. What the hell was his name?
He was a pirate. He had that pirate gimmick, and they were.
And he did the C4 finisher. I can't remember his name though. Yeah.
Oh shit! What Paul something?
Yeah, so definitely Paul something. Paul Burchill. So she was Katie Lee Burchill.
Katie Lee Burchill. Yeah. And
then recently she was Brito's girlfriend that Joel Hendry rejected in Impact too.
But she wasn't Winter then. What was she? I can't remember what her name was. She wasn't Winter at that point.
No, she wasn't. I'm just saying it was the same.
One of the best storylines I ever saw revolved around her and the Beautiful People. When she kept coming in on Angelina Love. What?
She kept coming on Angelina Love.
I said coming in on. Jesus. Get your mind out of the window. Katarina.
But it's the windows are the eyes of the soul or whatever.
No, I'm talking about the windows that are in your front room that you are covering with naughty stuff.
It's only naughty if you have that perspective on it.
Fair enough. Anyway, her name is Katarina. That's who she was when she was dating Grotto and the whole Joe Hendry thing. But she was...
Wait, what did you just call him?
Huh?
You called him Grotto.
Grotto, whatever.
Okay.
He's not around anymore.
No, but
Neither
Grotto
is
doesn't
Joe.
sound like isn't Grotto like doesn't that sound like a Mexican Harlem or something?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not that well versed in other languages. Anyway, I was saying one of the best storylines I ever saw was when she would come in. Her name she was called Winter, and she would come in and was a quote unquote figment of Angelina Love's imagination. where she would come in and whisper stuff to Angelina Love, and then Velvet Sky would come in and she wouldn't be there. That was still one of my favorite storylines.
Even though it makes no logical sense, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But it was fun because it was something that they didn't do very often in wrestling anymore, and to see her kind of do that stuff in TNA, I thought it was fun. It was fun to see.
Yeah, I think wrestling's at its best when either they do it the sports way that AEW is doing it, or when they treat it like it's a television show. So anything can happen, like you're talking about.
Not this crappy comedy segment every other match and the same guys running out every single night 16 times.
Right, but I mean, if you're and Chikara does that a lot too. I mean, I've never really been following Chikara, but I do know that they play into that kind of fantasy element where things like that can happen, like even in the ring, where somebody's appearing to somebody else that nobody else is supposed to be able to see. And when you really buy into that, and you buy into that as a fan, and you set your universe up that way, it can work really well.
Okay, here's what I was talking about. Using the name Winter, she would appear admiring Angelina Love during a backstage segment in somewhat supernatural appearances where only Love could see her. And then after a few weeks, she was finally seen by other knockouts when she saved Love during a large backstage brawl. So it went on for, I want to say like 4 or 5. No, it probably went on for about 8 weeks, a couple months, where she would just appear, to Angelina Love and tell her how beautiful she is and all this crap.
Yeah, and in 8 weeks is about as long as you keep something like that going without any kind of a payoff.
Right, and it ended up being a payoff, and they were, they ended up being a tag team and everything. But
so does that mean? And I apologize. I don't remember how this all went down. But does that mean that Angelina Love wished this character into existence in real life, or like she imagined her so hard that she became real? I mean, was that how it was sold, or did they never even mention?
No, it was just it ended up being that Winter was her stalker.
Oh, okay.
I think. I don't think it had the payoff that would have been, as great as we would have hoped. But also, you got to realize who was booking back in 2011 in TNA.
Was that Vince Russo?
Yeah. So the fact that they could even come up with a storyline like this that was entertaining for weeks on end is just amazing.
Yeah. God, Jeff, maybe we want to go back and watch Impact again.
I've actually
been the old TNAs,
I've actually been contemplating going back to like 2008, 2009, watching the old instant classic Christian Cage and his feud against Jeff when he wore the white pants out and made fun of the white pants all the time.
I would have so hard a time watching that because I know what happens to AJ Styles during that time.
Yeah, I know, but you also have to realize that wasn't that the time when AJ, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels were putting on epic after epic after epic 5-star matches?
That was in 2005 that started.
I'm trying to think when Christian was there. Because Christian retired in 2011?
Yes. But I think it was like 2006 that he left WWE for TNA.
I'm looking it up now, so.
Okay.
But I love that time that was when AJ was his little comedy character and actually showed that he could be a good character. It was 2005. November 2005 is when he made his debut. So it was, 3 months after that 5-star triple threat?
Something like that, yeah.
And that was when we really got to see that AJ Styles had a character and charisma and things that we didn't realize AJ could.
He played a lackey when he had already been the world champion.
Well, I get that. I get it. I mean, I get the reset. But if you can look past that, he was... that really showed what AJ Styles could do, that he was more than just this amazing wrestler.
It did. I agree with that. I'm just saying that I had a hard time watching it because I knew what AJ had been before that. I
agree.
I can understand why people who never watched the weekly pay-per-views or never watched it on Fox Sports and didn't see it until it was actually, on Spike, would have really enjoyed that stuff.
Well, and it kind of goes, but I think it kind of goes along that whole line of what we were just talking about with Hulk Hogan being IC title holder, and when Triple H won the Intercontinental title, and you see your start, like even now, when Dean Ambrose was wearing the Intercontinental title, like right now you can't see Kofi Kingston as an IC title holder anymore. He won the big belt. He's now that guy. He's not going to go backwards. And I think in your eyes it was much the same. But I think that the way that TNA sold that X Division, it made it a little more okay. It wasn't like it was a mid-card title. It was like a title that anybody could go for. Where the Intercontinental title for so long has just been, you're not good enough to hold the world title, but you're good enough to hold this one. So when you see a world title holder go back and get it, then it's like, okay, well, nobody's going to beat him. He's above this.
No, I think my biggest thing was that they acted like they never pressed the reset button.
Makes sense.
They acted like everything was, and I was listening to Busted Open one day last week, and Bully Ray was recommending that they do that with the New Day on SmackDown, like basically act like the New Day, go back to the beginning of the New Day, because now you have new people viewing it and you can sell more merchandise with it. And I'm like, that's one of the things I hate in pro wrestling is when you press the reset button. So I hate that idea. So I understand it from the business, but I hate the idea.
Yeah, I agree.
But now that we're talking about, well, do we have? Actually, I think there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. Two more things I wanted to talk about with the NXT show, I think, before we move on to Impact. Even though we got way off of it here. But what did you
as always?
What did you think of the Kushida Walter interaction? Because I thought it was fucking awesome.
I thought it was great. I don't like. Actually, you know what? No, everything about that segment I loved. I love the fact that they came out and disrupted that match. I love the fact they made Imperium look great. I love the fact that we got to see a different side of Walter, because up until this run with Imperium, Walter never got on a mic. Mm-hmm. Ever. He was always that stoic guy that just didn't say anything, came in and crushed people. The fact that he's on a mic and he is good on the mic too. And then you add in this little guy Kushida, who has been wanting that major push against the heavyweights come in, right, and actually not only attack Imperium, but take out three of them, kind of, put a little fight to Walter, and then outsmarted them by getting away. I thought it was great for everybody involved. I actually think that was a great segment, and that, unfortunately, that should have been on USA Network, not on the WWE Network. Yeah, that's the kind of segment.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed that segment. A couple of things about it. Number one is, just like the Sean Spears slap with a chair on Cody Rhodes, maybe you want to see a match I never thought I'd want to see. Kushida versus Walter's never a match I even considered.
Because
and that short segment made me really want to see it.
Just because of the way they've sold Kushida, the way that, and even WWE has sold Kushida by throwing him on 205 Live. He doesn't look like that kind of guy that would go up against a monster like Walter. I will say this: Walter standing next to Eichner doesn't look like such a monstrous man anymore. No, he now looks. When he's standing there right next to Eichner, I didn't realize how big Eichner really was until I saw those two stand next to each other.
Yeah, me neither. The other thing with Kushida is, he said to Walter, "You took up my something like you're here on my time, so now I'm going to take up your time." And that to me was like, okay, WWE finally has a Japanese star that can cut a promo in English.
Right, exactly. And I do still love the fact that he's still going with his Marty McFly gimmick.
Yeah. He is, but his finisher isn't called the Time Splitter anymore.
No, because doesn't NJPW own the rights to that?
Probably.
Or is WWE just trying to make it something else like they did with the Kinshasa
Yeah,
or
I
the
really-
Boomaye
Yeah, I
when
really
they changed
don't
the name when they changed the name of the Boomaye?
know. To the Kinshasa, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really cool like what Kushida's doing there, and I really, you know, I love the guy, so I really hope that he becomes a star for WWE. I don't expect him to be like a big time world champion there, but if he does, more power to him, man.
Yeah, yeah. I just hope he doesn't end up. Well, I think what hurt Shinsuke was the fact that he couldn't cut a promo. He just could not do a promo in English, where Kushida has it down.
Right, that was my point. Is that I mean the other thing is that I think Kushida's getting there when he's still in his prime, and I'm not sure that's the case with Nakamura. You know, Nakamura we saw had that great match against Styles. He came in a few months later, had that great match against Sami Zayn. But how many great matches has he had since then?
He had a good series against Samoa Joe. I'll give him that. But on the main roster, none that I've heard of.
Yeah, he had but that's what I said. It was a good series against Samoa Joe, and it
wasn't a
match against
great
Finn Balor, but it didn't live up to even his debut
the hype
match against Sami Zayn. You
know. No. He always. It seemed like even now he's still. And I love the fact that they. And I hate to bring up WWE again, but you know I still watch it occasionally and still keep track and watch my favorites.
No wonder you wouldn't dig your eyes out with a spoon.
No. You're trying to get me to watch Crazy Steve and Vampiro in a cage. I cannot ever. That match was so fucking bad last year. Oh my god, I still have nightmares about it. Even the Brock Goldberg match was better than that one.
I don't know what a Goldberg is either.
Yeah, he was in WCW. You used to like WCW.
Oh, right, he was in WCW. That's right. I forgot. That Goldberg.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I meant to mention earlier. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Make your point about whatever the fuck a WWE is.
I don't remember at this point.
Okay.
I totally lost it.
Because I mentioned this during when we were talking about the Four Horsemen earlier. Do you know who Roderick Strong is married to? Because I just found this out last week.
Who?
Marina Shafir.
Really?
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, me neither. So.
That's actually kind of cool.
It is.
And what's the other one? What's the other one's name? Jesma or something?
Jessamine Duke.
Jessamine Duke. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish those two would actually break out a little bit and not be lackeys.
I do too. They don't really seem to have much character, other than one says let's play and one says let's fight.
Yeah, they got to stop that too. That's really hard to see. It's really hard to watch.
Yeah, I really would like to see them. I mean, because I can only remember them actually seeing them in one match and they lost that one. So I mean, I'd really like to see more. And that might be partly my fault for not watching NXT. But I mean, it's not like they've really been featured in a major way other than just coming out and helping Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, they're Shayna's lackeys.
Yeah.
Which honestly brings a whole new level to Shayna too, which makes her even better than she was.
But if we saw them do more things, look how much stronger Shayna would look to have them as lackeys too.
Yeah, that is true.
It's like Adam Cole has. I mean, how much more did it mean for Roderick Strong to have the tag team champions who are super over and the NXT champions super over be the guys that helped him win the championship? I mean, we still would rather he had done it without all that interference. But look who did it. Look who it was that helped him.
I just think his association with them he was already on that level. He didn't need them to help him win. I think that the fact that they all had to help him win after Adam Cole won it without interference, Red Dragon won it without interference, it makes him look like the weak link because he's the only one of the three or of the four that needed to have outside interference.
Yes, I agree with that. But my point is, would you rather have those guys be the one that helped you win the match, or Turtleface that helped AJ Styles beat Dean Ambrose?
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
And yes, I call him Turtleface because I can't remember his fucking name.
What the hell is it? James Ellsworth. That's
What
it.
it
James
is.
Ellsworth. Um,
But Turtleface
no.
fits him a lot better.
Well, and I will say this. I was never a huge Roderick Strong fan. I think he's always been talented. I've always liked him as a wrestler, but as a character, I thought he was dull everywhere I've ever seen him. I will say that being with Undisputed Era has brought out, and we said this about Kyle O'Reilly too. For some reason, with those two being in Undisputed Era, being around that group and the way that they portray that group has brought out an amazing amount of character out of both Roderick Strong and out of Kyle O'Reilly, to a point where they are legitimate stars now. Things that we always respected their ability, but we never really respected them as characters.
I think when you watch Kyle O'Reilly, you can see the influence that Shawn Michaels and Road Dogg have had on him.
Absolutely.
Because those are two of the guys that knew how to really push their confidence and their arrogance on the screen, and that's what he does now.
Yep. And he's with him playing
his,
and he's also got that comedy timing now too, with him playing his air guitar in the back and all that stuff.
Yep.
He's gotten so much better.
Yeah,
he is
and I can see the Shawn Michaels influence on that too, because it's almost, it's not quite, but it's almost that whole clueless look that Michaels would give in the latter days of the the faux DX with him and Hunter.
Oh yeah, yep. Where he would be like, "Oh, I didn't see that." Yeah. He does have that, and I think you can see a lot of. And you can see a lot of charisma out of Roderick Strong that was never there before. And even in his matches have gotten so much better because of the amount of charisma he has now that he never had. His character was so boring.
Right.
But now he has just this amazing amount of charisma, and it comes out of him even in his matches. The way that he sells moves, the way that he puts on moves. There were a couple times in that match against Dream where the way that he sold the hit from Dream looked like it was Dolph Ziggler doing it. It seriously was that good, the way that he sold it, that I looked at him and I'm like, is this the same Roderick Strong I saw in ROH and TNA? It can't be. There was no way it could be.
I didn't notice that because I thought he was. But I've always been a big fan of Roderick Strong in the ring. So
He's gotten a lot. Well, I've always been a big fan of him in the ring too, but I think he's got that extra added now, where not only is his personality coming through on the mic and in backstage segments, but his personality is coming through in his matches too.
The other thing I wanted to talk about on this show was how fucking horrible the main event was. I absolutely hated the last 20 minutes of this show.
I blocked it out
Because I feel like as soon as that big brawl started, that chaotic riot started, that it felt so completely inorganic, and it's what I felt like. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, of course this is how I felt like I should have known that's what they were going to do to end the show.
Well, it's WWE booking. As much as people like to say, oh, Triple H is in charge, no, the second it came on TV, on like a national channel that you didn't have to pay for, it was going to have WWE influence in it. And that was the perfect WWE ending.
It was, and that's why I think it turned my stomach watching it. And now you've got a rematch that's happening probably as we speak right now. And so what is going to stop that match from becoming exactly the same thing last week's match was?
And not only is it a rematch, it's a rematch with the exact same stipulation.
Right, the same stipulation, other than they added the top contender stipulation onto it.
If they had maybe put it in a cage or done like a 6 Side to Steel, or what was the one that TNA did with all the weapons and all that?
Lethal Lockdown.
No. They had one with, it was Abyss. Abyss made it famous.
Are you talking about the Monsters Ball?
Yep, that's it. No, that wasn't in a cage, though.
No, that's why I'm confused.
Okay. No, They had something in a cage where they had weapons. Maybe it was Lethal Lockdown.
Okay.
But if they had done it that way,
Lethal Lockdown was basically like their version of War Games, except for there was weapons involved.
right. But if they had done something like that where they took a street fight, put weapons in there, like the final of the 3 Stages of Hell between Cole and Gargano. If they'd done something like that, I think I would have cared more. But the fact that they're doing the exact same match that they did last week, I don't care. I don't give a shit. I've seen it. I saw how horrible it ended. Why would I want to tune in for that again?
I know it. I know it's and also like when you have no guarantee, it's not going to end exactly the same way last week's did.
Right, because they didn't.
So I mean, unless there's a stipulation like if there's another riot, I'm firing everybody. Then what's the point?
Or put them in a cage.
Yeah. But cage matches are usually pretty bad too.
Well, they are now. If they'd go back to the way they used to be.
You mean when you actually had to win the match inside the cage and not race to the top?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
And where people didn't come out and help whoever was their partner in the ring. Because the cage was supposed to keep them out, not let them in.
Now you're making me want to go back and watch the Rock and Rolls versus Blanchard and Anderson in a steel cage, or Ronnie Garvin versus Ric Flair in a steel cage.
I kind of want to go back and watch Steamboat Flair.
Oh, from Raging Cajun?
Yeah. Such a great match.
It is, but isn't it like the 5th best match they ever had against each other?
Oh, yeah, but in a cage? I mean, we're talking about in a cage right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm going to go back and watch In a Cage, that's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, I can't argue against that.
I mean, yeah, that was probably I don't even know if it made the top 5 of their matches.
I don't remember who it was against, but I remember that Austin Aries used that escape the cage match so well in one of his first defenses of the Ring of Honor World Championship, where he did a tope con hilo through the door over the top rope to land on the floor and win when the other guy was climbing down the top of the cage. So that's probably the best ending I've ever seen to one of those escape the cage matches, other than of course the Orndorff Hogan one.
Well, I still really like the Edge Christian one, where Christian got nutted on the top of the cage, and he was hanging upside down while Edge was climbing down.
I forgot about that.
That's still one of my favorites.
Yeah. So that was NXT for us. Again, I thought it was a double when it should have been a home run, and I will be watching it if I watch it if and when I watch it. It'll be on Thursdays or on their non-commercial having episodes, not on their network ones. Especially since we'll be covering their competition live an hour, right after it goes off the air. So. No further comments from you either, I'm assuming, Jeff. So let's move on to Major League Wrestling.
Not on NXT. I don't really have much. The one thing I do. I do have one other thing to say about it, and it was kind of a theme last weekend that really pissed me off. The bad announcing was in every single show I watched, and I like the way Nigel is, because you and I have talked about the 3-man booth. Nigel seems like he's that what's his name from WCW, as a TNA announcer forever.
Mike Tenay?
Yeah, where he was that Mike Tenay guy where he just kind of threw in his little nuggets here and there. But Beth Phoenix either needs to learn the name of moves or she needs to get off the mic. And Mauro Ranallo does not need to scream and make even a lockup sound like it's the most exciting thing ever. They need to pull him back a little bit because he is so over the top with everything that the big moments don't mean anything anymore.
I guess I didn't get that from him. I mean, I can understand what you're saying, but I guess I don't feel like he's that over the top all the time.
It got to a point when I was watching the show that I literally turned the volume off because I just could not handle him screaming anymore. And I don't get it because he was so good when he was on SmackDown. He was so good when he first started on NXT. Maybe he was excited about it being on the USA Network and it being live and all that stuff. I don't know. But it just seemed like he was spending the majority of the night screaming about how great every move that happened was.
But doesn't that generate excitement for you as a fan, too, when he's doing that? Because I honestly, I liked the commentary booth. I mean, there was things that Beth Phoenix said that annoyed the hell out of me, but I liked the booth overall. And I liked that Beth was mostly keeping her mouth shut.
I thought she talked too much, to be honest.
I didn't think it was ridiculous when she called somebody else a bully on that show. But
right, yeah, she did a couple times.
Yeah, because I mean, if you ever watch a Beth Phoenix match, you know she was always a bully. But I mean, no, but I actually did not have any problem with that with the commentary team.
I don't know. I did. I felt like maybe I need to watch more, but he didn't seem like the normal Morrow. He seemed like he was just when he was in that match with Trevor Lee and I can't remember the guy's name now, but he even the entrances he was screaming. He just seemed like everything was so over the top that I actually got sick of listening to him.
Well, I'll have to see how he did on tonight's show when I watch it tomorrow night, and I'll see if I can spot that, because I honestly was watching it going, yeah, I kind of like how Morrow's going, and then Nigel's chipping in, and then we only get occasional Beth Phoenix. You know?
See, and I felt like there was too much Beth. I thought there was just the perfect amount of Nigel. I would have rather had Nigel and Beth's roles kind of flip-flopped a little bit, where Beth was the one throwing in the little nuggets and Nigel was actually doing the color. But I seriously felt like it was way too much Morrow. I felt like he was...
Well, he's the lead announcer. What do you expect?
Yeah, he's the lead announcer, but every great lead announcer has always let their color guy get in there. Color guys usually speak more than lead announcers do because they're the ones giving the insight.
Well, not on MLW.
That is true, and that's another bad announcer. There were so many things that Rich Bocchini did during that War Games that I just wanted to cry. Literally wanted to cry.
Isn't it weird, like you know, when you have Rich Bocchini and Tony Schiavone, and Schiavone maybe talks 10% of the time? It's so weird.
It really is.
Sometimes you feel like Rich Bocchini's like Joey Styles and doing it all by himself. Not with the talent of Joey Styles, but still doing it all by himself.
There were a few things that he said that really bugged me. And one storyline, and I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. Well, what the hell? One storyline in that War Games match, and of course now we're talking about MLW guys. The War Chamber match. One thing that really there's no transition. There's stop. You know, there's hard stops in this show. When they were talking about Ross having the flu. And then he came down to the ring and just beat the shit out of everybody. He didn't look like somebody who has the flu.
No. So, well, now that we're on that match, what did you think of the match overall?
As far as the War Chamber match, I thought it was the third best one in MLW I've seen.
And there's only been 3.
Exactly.
See, and I thought, you know, I mean, I read Ryan's comments that, you know, he thought it was as good as the War Games 92 match, and I was like, what?
No.
No. And you know, at that point, I'd only seen about half the show. Then I watched it, and I'm like, well, the last 10 minutes of it are awesome, but you have to take the entire thing into consideration, and the entire thing was not that good. You know?
And it was cookie cutter. That's the worst part, is it was cookie cutter.
And I also thought that the order of the guys was weird.
Yeah, Tom Lawler never should have came out second, and neither should have Samael.
Yeah, and Quan being the last one was just like, what?
I get, like, in a way, I kind of get why they put Fatu before Quan, simply because there would have been too many people in the ring to do some of the shit he did. Some of the stuff that Jacob Fatu did in that ring, he never would have been able to do with another 3 people in there.
Yeah, and really, that's kind of a symptom of them going with the one ring instead of the two. I really feel like, that's the kind of match that does need the 2 rings.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
And I mean, and there was, like I said, there was some great spots in the last 10 minutes, and I don't think you can question the finish. No. Really, you're in Dallas, and having the Von Erichs go over was probably the right decision. I loved their finisher. I thought that was awesome, but yeah, I mean, I thought that there was just too much. It was like it was almost because the ring was so cluttered and there was so much brawling going on. It was almost like you're watching a World War III match for the first maybe like 20 minutes of that match. That's how I felt.
Well,
It's like forearm, elbow, punch, kick. There was no actual story being told in there, and I just could not really get into it until we had until I guess quote unquote the match beyond it actually started.
Actually, I think it started.
I thought it was really good.
I thought it started to pick up when Fatu entered the ring. I thought Fatu and the way that he was, and then 2 minutes later getting Low Ki to come in, I thought that's when it really kind of picked up. I really liked.
That's probably true. Yeah.
I really liked the way that, it's a match I actually kind of want to see with Quan and Low Ki. The way those two kind of stood toe to toe. I loved when Ross came down and kind of took everybody out. I thought that was a really interesting thing to do, because I've always looked at Ross as the weakest link of the Von Erichs. And the fact that he came down and was able to even out to his brother was something that I thought was a great way to showcase Ross. I do think that this match was way too predictable. We knew the Von Erichs were going to win in Texas. We just knew that. I mean, that was the foregone conclusion even before. We knew that that once they announced the order, even before I knew Contra was going to be the ones who won the coin toss, because that's just the way these matches are always booked. It's always the heels getting the 2-on-1 advantage.
Yeah, I think only one time in history have I ever seen the baby faces have the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, so that was cookie cutter, and that was, hard to watch. And then you had Bocchini and his horrible announcing. I felt like there were so many places they could have done something original with this match, and they chose not to. I mean, when you look at the fact that Samael is known for his fireball, and we didn't see that once during the match.
Didn't he go set it up one time and something happened?
I don't remember. I remember looking for it and never seeing it happen.
And the thing with the mask guy was disappointing too. The mask guy
that was.
The cage, and then there would be no payoff to that. Other than, I guess the payoff was Kevin Von Erich got to get his Iron Claw on, but I mean, not finding out who that was and not ending up actually mattering to the finish kind of sucked.
Well, and the fact that after Kevin Von Erich got his claw on, they didn't mention it again.
Right.
The rest of the match, it was just dead and gone. And it was like, and that was another one of those little things where it was predictable. You knew at some point he was going to get involved in the match. At some point he was going to whip out his Iron Claw, and it was just a matter of when it's going to happen. And then they send some mystery mask guy up the cage, but they don't ever give us a payoff as to who it is, or is it even a member of Contra? Is it another one of their soldiers, or is it just some lunatic fan who jumped the railing?
Right. Yeah. There was no. I mean, maybe it was Myron Reed. So,
Right. Speaking of which, I actually like Myron Reed.
Yeah, I do feel like the way that they've had the same people on all the shows, and maybe this is really the case, but it feels like there's like, maybe 15 men on their entire roster, you know.
Right.
And
That does. No, you're right. It does seem like there's only about 10, 15 people on the roster because it's the same three matches.
right, because it seems like every show starts with Injustice in a match against somebody like Airwolf or uh, Gringo Loco or who's that new guy from Brazil? Can't think of his name. Um, and then you got a Dynasty versus Hart Foundation match, and then you're gonna see some of Contra, and some of uh, Selena De Laurentiis folks. That's what it seems like is always going on there.
Yeah, and there's been some inconsistencies. I think this was the first time that they ever, well, no, last week during War Games was the first time they ever really acknowledged that Contra that shows up on the screen just randomly out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's been going on for months, but they just finally acknowledged it, which I thought.
Announced this before Contra even debuted.
Has it?
Yeah.
I guess I don't remember it before them. But
It's
and are these guys
Ring of
actually
Honor,
signed?
It's kind of like when you watch Ring of Honor, you would see like the lightning things going on before. I mean, the heartbeat thing going on before.
Lifeblood was even announced.
Was even a thing. It was even announced.
Well, and then there was the lightning before PCU came out and.
Yeah. PCO.
PC old.
Yeah, not PC University, but PC old. And yeah, I mean I'm still enjoying Major League Wrestling. It's just that it feels like they don't have much of a roster. Is all I'm saying.
Well, and they really don't. I mean, when you look at the fact that LA Park is their top heel right now, well, what is he? I don't know, a heel versus heel match?
Yeah. The thing with the phone is fucking weird too.
Yeah.
I mean, they just killed that storyline.
Right, and there was no
like,
mention of it.
And it's like, okay, so Conan has this phone for weeks, and he doesn't think to make copies of the files on there?
Right, exactly.
Seriously? I mean, maybe they wrote him off because he's going somewhere else, but it just, I thought it was really weird. Did you get a chance to watch this week's MLW?
I watched the first half of it. I wanted to wait until I had a chance to actually sit down and watch that 2 out of 3 falls tag match.
Okay.
So I haven't seen that yet. That's actually queued up, and I'm probably going to watch it when we're done here. But again, we talked about how it's always Injustice and the thing, I think one of the things I don't like about the Injustice angle, I realized that Marlon Reed needed something to do, and they wanted to continue this angle. So after Rich Swann left, it made sense that he recruited Jordan Oliver with the whole background that they're trying to give us about Jordan Oliver. The thing that didn't make sense and still to this day kind of confuses me, and they've never really explained it, is Cota Brazil. Why the hell did he all of a sudden join them? What was his big injustice that happened that made him there? They at least sold it with Marlon Reed and his issues with the ref and Oliver with his past and everything. But Cota Brazil, there's no reason for him to be a heel aligned with these guys. No reason at all.
Do you remember when Promotions Dorado, specifically Ricky Martinez, like attacked him in a nightclub, hit him with a glass bottle, and messed up his eye?
Yeah.
That's the reason for it.
And that's a stupid reason because he got his comeuppance out of that.
But there was never any sanctions against them for it. That was his reason. Is that he had this happen to him. He was almost blinded by Promotions Del Dorado, and MLW did nothing to Selena Del Rento or her men.
No, they actually suspended Ricky for 1 week, and then he got his win against Ricky.
But
So
I'm telling you that's a storyline reason for it.
I know, and but it's a stupid storyline because it doesn't make sense. He got his win. They suspended Ricky Martinez for a week, and he got his win back. He got his justice. So for them to use that as I could have understood it more if they did nothing to Ricky Martinez, and if he lost his match because, and he had 2 or 3 matches against Ricky Martinez, and he lost all of them because of outside interference that wasn't called, or the ref not seeing something. I could have gotten it.
So let me get this straight. You almost lose sight in one of your eyes. A guy is suspended for 1 week, and you get a pinfall victory over him, and that is supposed to compensate you for that?
In the wrestling world?
No.
He also had a chance. In the real world, he could have sued and, gotten his justice that way. But in the wrestling world, he got his justice.
But I'm saying he didn't.
I get.
You're saying you're going by what would happen in the past, and I'm saying that he's saying no, that's not enough. This guy should have been fired. Promotion Dorado should have been forced to be out of the company, and instead you let these guys that try to blind me keep wrestling. So I think it is justified, honestly.
See, and I don't.
Yeah.
And maybe that's for me. I think that.
Okay, folks, looks like we're back. I'm sorry about the internet. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm going to try to add Jeff back onto the call now since I have my internet back now. And let's see if we can get him back on. Great on and almost positive is that I've been saying when we've done Major League Wrestling MLW that I really enjoyed the Dirty Blondes and I was missing those guys. And while we didn't get the Dirty Blondes back or Colonel Robert Parker back, we did get Lee O'Brien, one half of the Dirty Blondes, on in kind of a squash match where he was showing, he was probably the better of the Dirty Blondes anyway, so we get to see him in there, kind of, reminds me of a young Dusty Rhodes, so he's in there. He hit the Yokozuna Stampede for the victory, which of course is an old Dr. Dusty Williams move. It was just great to see him in there, so I'm really hoping they do something with him. We talked about them having a limited roster, but now they bring this guy in, and hopefully they're going to move him up the ladder because I think he's just... he's solid. He's got a lot of talent, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with him. I've never heard him talk, so I don't know if he needs a mouthpiece or not. But to see him in the ring was really fun to see him come back in. I'm part of the Dirty Blondes. Just seeing that guy in there, he's got that old school type style, really strong performer, and I think he could be something. He could be a star in the business. I wouldn't mind seeing him against somebody in the Dynasty or the Hart Foundation, which is basically the top guys, or somebody in Promotion Dorado, to make a good showing in their talent, and he could be a bright part of their future coming up. And again, Jeff didn't answer his phone, so let me see if what he's doing. Hopefully, I do reset my modem 15 minutes before we do every show, so it's really annoying when something like this happens and my internet goes out. I'm really hoping that doesn't happen on next week's show, where we'll be covering Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view, or on 2 days later where we do our first ever #DAD Dynamite After Dark, talking about, of course, doing our post-show of AEW Dynamite on TNT. That's something that I'm looking forward to doing. I'm looking forward to going live, talking about a live wrestling show. You guys might remember that we used to have the late shift on this network on LOP Radio, where Steve would talk about Monday Night Raw on Monday nights, and then he would talk about SmackDown on Tuesday nights. And sometimes you'd have him 3 days in a row, where he would also talk about, do Aftershock on Sundays. And now Jeff and I can do that every week for AEW. And I think it's something that we're both super excited for, because it's going to be a bit of a different type of show, where we're focusing basically on one promotion. Of course, you know how we are. It'll probably spin over into others. But
your internet crashed, huh?
Yeah, my internet crashed, and then you went to take a shit or whatever the hell you were doing.
Well, we're not going to talk about that right now.
Were you covering the windows?
I might have been.
I was talking about how excited I was just talking about before I had you back on, that how excited that we are that we're going to be doing what Steve did for so many years with the late shift on Raw and SmackDown. How we're going to be starting a week from tonight. We're going to be going live right after a live wrestling show and talking about what happened.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it, actually. It's going to be, because every other week I have my kids, so my recollection may be spotty every other week, but I'm going to do my best to watch those weeks. And, of course, the weeks that I don't have my kid, I'm sitting down at 7 and watching the whole show back to back. So I'm looking forward to doing the show. I really am.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a blast. And we're gonna try to make that a more narrow time show, where our goal is to get it done within an hour. But I think if we get done within 90 minutes, I think we'll be doing good, because the way we like to ramble on things.
Well, yeah, we do have extreme ADD on this show, so. But yeah, I think we'll do it in about an hour, and because I can't imagine, other than touching on the major storylines and saying this match was good and why, I can't imagine us going more than that.
Well, the first episode, we're going to have Sammy Guevara versus Cody.
Great match.
The first ever women's champion crowned. And we're going to find out who Chris Jericho's mystery partners are. So then those could be some huge things to discuss.
Well, considering they're not in the tag team tournament, I'm assuming we already know.
Yeah, it'd be kind of lame if we already know, though, don't you think?
Except for the fact that we already know.
You really think it's going to be LAX?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because they're not in a tag team tournament and they need to be showcased on the first show.
Well, why would that make them mystery partners?
Who the hell else are they going to have? That's the only spot where they're going to get those two in.
No, it's not. They've got 2 hours to get them in. What the hell are you talking about?
And out of those 2 hours, we have 3 tag team matches. We have a women's title match.
The tag team tournament doesn't start till the next week.
Doesn't it?
No.
I thought it started this week.
It starts October 9th.
Oh, all right. Well, never mind.
Okay.
Just ignore my commentary.
Yeah. And what have they done to deserve to be in the tag team title tournament?
They're one of the best tag teams in the world.
Right, but this is AEW.
Right.
Where your win-loss record in AEW is what matters. So
to be honest,
what have they done in AEW?
They have a better win-loss record than Jurassic Express. They're 0. They're 0-0. Jurassic Express is 0-2. I'm just saying. If they're going by records, P&P deserves to be in it ahead of Jurassic Express.
Well, maybe we'll see them attack somebody and steal a spot in the tournament.
No, they won't. That kind of booking doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, because they didn't attack Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks at all out, right?
Although I will say this, if they somehow end up attacking Jurassic Express or Experience or whatever the hell they're being called, and make it into the tournament in their spot and go up against the Lucha Brothers, I'm going to love that match.
No, you're not.
I would.
You didn't love it when it was on Impact earlier this year. We both thought it was a terrible match.
Yeah, it was terrible there, but we got different bookers. We got different people in charge. They're not going for an extreme type of show anymore.
All right, if you say so.
It's just me. It's just me being hopeful, to be honest with you. I completely forgot about their Impact debacle.
I do give LAX a lot of props for the way that they left Impact, though. You know, leaving on their backs, putting over the North clean in that title versus career match. Very strong props to those guys for going out the right way.
Yeah.
I do think it's weird that they have another match after their loser leaves. You know, after they agree to leave the promotion after losing the tag titles. But
right.
But I guess there was never a stipulation where that had to be their final match in the promotion. So, you know, I'm sure Willie Mack and whatever the hell the other guy's name is,
Rich Swann
against them is going to be good. You know.
Yeah, we'll find out next week.
Well, it was actually on Friday, but we haven't watched it yet.
Like I said, we'll find out next week.
And we're closing in on our usual 2-hour time slot, so I guess we're not going to have time to talk about Impact this week.
The only thing I really want to say, and the only thing that actually stuck out in both episodes I saw was Ace Austin. He is a future star, and they are pushing him the right way.
He plays a scumbag very well.
He is amazing at it. He really is.
Yeah.
I
liked how we got to see your the team that you thought was horrible getting paid off by him, and so we know that they're not done with those guys. I can't remember their names right now, but I remember I enjoyed them, and you thought they were shit.
Oh, Reno Scum.
Yeah, Reno Scum.
Yeah. They. Speaking of which, I watched an episode of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood last night.
Okay.
And it was the latest episode, and they have some tag team tournament going on. And the winners of the tournament are, and I still haven't watched the last main event, so I don't know who actually won the tournament. But the winners get to face Reno Scum for the tag titles. And there's a couple of tag teams in there that I really, really like. I can't remember who they are, but there's these kind of Zen guys that are all about the planet and everything that are really fun to watch. And then there was another tag team.
Parkers?
No, they aren't. No, that is funny though. I think I know a certain Sammy that would hate that you even brought that up.
A certain Sammy.
Because he feuded with C.J. Parker.
Oh yeah, I suppose he did when he was
one of the
Sullivan
worst.
Pro.
Yeah, one of the worst feuds ever.
You know, I was thinking about this earlier today. Isn't it sad that we never really got a Raven versus Sting feud when Sting was the Crow character? Then we've had a Raven versus Crow.
And considering the fact that they were in the same promotion at the same time for a long time, yeah. It is kind of sad.
Yeah, and two of the all-time greats too.
Right, exactly.
I know there's probably other that are like, what? Raven was an all-time great? Dude, watch his ECW stuff. Watch his Flock stuff. He was awesome.
His stuff in WCW when he was the Flock was amazing. He was a character that was so far ahead of its time that it was almost hard to imagine he was even there at that time.
Even and you know, there's also his stuff that you know is very underrated in TNA when he became the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Oh yeah, his what was his match? Well, that was when Mickey James was Alexa Luray or whatever.
Yeah,
When she was his.
he won the NWA World Title in a King of the Mountain match, I believe. You know, and
God, I missed that King of the Mountain match too.
yeah,
I don't know why, because it was so dumb with the timeouts and all that stuff, but
it's
I, re-
dramatic.
I really enjoyed that style of match.
You know, and speaking of that, speaking of weird TNA matches, for some reason the Doc always calls the Royal Rumble Reverse Battle Royal, but it wasn't the Gauntlet match at TNA the real Reverse Battle Royal.
No, they had a real reverse battle royal.
That's what I mean. I mean, in TNA they had the thing they called the Gauntlet, where you were trying to stop people from getting in the ring, and then once they got in the ring, then you had to throw them over the top rope, and then the last two people left over were the wrestled a regular match to see who won. So I mean,
They
to me,
called
that was
that the
the actual.
Gauntlet?
Yeah,
I thought that was the reverse battle royal that Vince Russo came up with.
it was, but he called it the Gauntlet.
Okay, yeah, that makes
But I mean,
sense then.
isn't that more Reverse Battle Royal than a Royal Rumble is? It is to me.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. So, God, I miss that promotion. And the funny thing is, I say that, but I can watch it any fucking time I want to.
Right, that's why I laughed because we talk about it all the time.
I know. Yeah, I mean, if we were only a retro podcast, we'd be doing that instead of the stuff we're doing now, but we're not.
Well, we're eventually going to do that. That's on our radar after we're probably done with ECW, and I don't know if there's another stinker like this last one. We're either going to have to fast forward or give up on it. I don't know that I can watch another 10 episodes like the one we just watched.
Oh, you can too. It's only every couple of weeks. You'll survive.
Oh, I don't know, man. That was brutal.
You'll survive.
Anyway, that brings me to Patreon. That is our site, patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Make sure you head to it. Donate a little bit to your boys here so we can continue to put out as much content as possible. And now, with another show coming up weekly, we're going to be doing 2 a week. And then we're also going to try to continue to do our every other week. It may end up, because of time, turn to once a month, but we're hoping to keep it every other week. Special shows on Patreon. So go to Patreon, subscribe, let us know what you think, and hopefully support your boys here so we can continue to put out the product that we do. Twitter, of course, hashtag KOH, soon to be hashtag DAD every Wednesday night. That gets you to us and everything we put out. You can find me at Regi Co-op. Shane is at Zanman LOP. Head to our YouTube page. It's YouTube Kingdom of Honor. Subscribe to it. Like the videos. Let us know what you think about the videos, where we can improve, what we can do better. I'm trying to start to try to put out at least 2 videos a month. That was my original goal, and I'm hoping to pick up on that now that my life is starting to come into a little more order than it used to be. So, that's where we're at now. And, of course, Facebook, Kingdom of Honor, just search for it. You'll find it. I got nothing else.
And remember, this coming Friday is the major pay-per-view for Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor.
Wait, wasn't that last Friday?
Shut the fuck up. What Jeff's referring to, I actually sat down to watch the show, and I was like, shit, it's not on for another week. So, anyway, this coming Friday, 27th, is Death Before Dishonor from Las Vegas. It's at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 6 o'clock Pacific Time. It's got the Bouncers versus Silas Young and Vinny Marseglia, Jay Lethal versus Jonathan Gresham, Marty Scurll versus Colt Cabana in a first-round tournament match, PCO versus Kenny King in a first-round tournament match, Kelly Klein defending the Women's World Championship against Angelina Love, Shane Taylor defending the World Television title against Flip Gordon and Tracy Williams, the Briscoes defending their World Tag Team Championship against Mark Haskins and Bandito of Lifeblood. And then in the main event, Roosh defeating Matt Taven for the World Championship. That's my prediction for that one, by the way. We'll be covering that show next Monday.
You sure? It is really going to happen this Friday, right?
Go to ROHWrestling.com if you don't believe me.
I don't believe anything after last week. I got all pumped up. I'm sitting down to watch it on Friday night, and I get a text from you that it's not on. So I don't trust you anymore.
Cool story, bro.
Liar.
Yeah, I would say that unless Anthem buys Ring of Honor before then cancels the show, it's going to happen on Friday.
All right, good.
And so we'll talk to you then about that on Monday. Don't forget that we are also going to be back with you next Wednesday for the first ever Dynamite After Dark. Stay tuned to the other LOP radio shows. So tomorrow is the Imps LOP Radio Adventure. On Friday is The Right Side of the Pond. And then, like I said, we'll be back with you on Monday. And we'll see you then. Until then, that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights. And Jeff saying...
Goodbye.
G1 Climax 27. Goodbye. And good night. Bang.